No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up. No, no, can't deny it. No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up.
Welcome to another episode of Discover a Thriver. I'm your host, Ethan.
My name is Arthur.
And we have our guest here, Adolfo Sanchez, the designer to the stars. Adolfo, welcome to Discover
What's up, guys?
Thriver.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you for waking up to us.
Yeah.
It's Sunday. Why not? It's nice to see the sunrise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I swear, I'm still getting used to this whole time difference thing, because I was saying it's like it's 1 a.m. and it's Monday for us.
Yeah.
But I hope you enjoy your Sunday.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming, for
Yeah,
taking
for sure.
your
I'm
time,
excited.
you know.
What's going on?
All right, so what we're going to do is pretty much kick things off with fire questions. What is the drink of choice, cocktail-wise, for you?
So I'm pretty boring when it comes to cocktail. I'm like, I like just a little bit of ice with my liquor. So I like to taste my liquor. So
like
I usually would do
rocks.
like a vodka rocks or vodka soda if I'm out at like a function or an event and I don't want to seem like an alcoholic. I'll do like I'll do an old fashioned.
Old fashioned.
Wow.
That's my drink, actually. One of my drinks. Okay, I'm not an
I
alcoholic.
like my liquor.
All right. So you've been in the industry for quite a while. We don't have to, give your age, but like, how did it start for you? Like, was it something that you were passionate about? You're originally from Mexico, correct?
What is what?
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from here in LA.
Right.
I was born in LA. I grew up in the burbs. I grew up in Orange County, which is just like 30, 40 minutes south of LA. And then I moved out of Orange County, basically Cali. I mean, I'm from Cali. I've lived in a few other places, but I'm born and raised in Cali.
Okay.
And how did the fashion inspiration come for you?
So, I mean, I really got myself into it without really knowing how to get into it. I think like, when I think about when I was a teenager, which now was quite a bit ago, maybe like 20, 22 years ago when I was really like trying to get like, not trying to get into the industry, but I was just learning about it. I was stumbling upon like runway shows by like John Galliano when he was with Dior. And I started going out at a really young age to like underground parties and raves and stuff. And my friends that I met through this scene were really into fashion. Mm-hmm. And so they were kind of like these cool kids that were like, if you're going to hang out with us, you need to know the who's who of the fashion industry. And so then I say now, which I think is the saying that people don't really say anymore, but I say I was schooled by them. So they kind of schooled me on like who Jean Paul Gautier was and, Thierry Mugler and like Vivienne Westwood and kind of like more avant-garde designers. And so then we would like mimic like what they would do on the runway to these parties, and I was like 15, 16 years old making costumes. But then it kind of was like, how do I really get into the business? And I didn't really know how to get into the business. And I didn't have the money for fashion school because it's always been like very expensive and I come from like working class. Mm-hmm. So then I got a job in retail. Mm-hmm. And I started doing really well in retail and I landed me eventually a job at Versace when I was 19 as a salesperson.
Okay. And
then from Versace I worked for Cavalli and a bunch of other like high fashion houses. I worked for Gucci, Emilio Pucci, and that really kind of taught me how to like sell this clothes to like women who could afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
It was like, and it was also a good opportunity for me to like look inside the clothes and see how it's made and why is this dress $3,800 and like it kind of really made me understand and respect more of like the business side of it, I guess. But then I was still like on the opposite end. Like, how do I now go from like being a salesperson for a corporate fashion company to being like a designer, right? I was like on the opposite spectrum. I wanted to be like in the inside, like where they make everything, not like where they sell everything. So I moved to LA in 2010 to pursue fashion, and I ended up just stumbling through a bunch of different businesses. I started sewing little dresses and got a sewing machine from like Walmart and started buying fabrics, like cheap little fabrics that I could afford because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I hired a seamstress to work for me on the weekends out of my garage.
Wow,
and she started showing me like, this is how you do this is how you do that, like all the basics kind of. I mean, it was probably really frustrating for her now that I think about it, you know, but she was sweet and taught me a lot. And I ended up landing a private label design job. I didn't even know what private labeling was.
What is a private label again?
Design for a company, and then they put their name on it.
Oh, okay.
Get no credit as a designer. So they call it private labeling. So I got that for like an evening wear line, and then I had after that I had a endorsement and licensing firm that I co-owned with someone, where we did like branding and licensing and endorsement deals for celebrities. And then after that, I started Creative, which is where we met.
Yes, I remember.
Creative was a brand development firm where designers would come to me, because I had learned by that point. This was maybe like 2014.
Yeah, I met you in 2014.
About that time, I had already learned how to do like the manufacturing side and how to do a lot of the like making the clothes from these other businesses and projects I had gotten into. And so I started a company that would help me fund my label, essentially by helping designers manufacture and make their clothes. I could then pay for my clothes. And so then, I did
process.
that. But then that burned down.
Well, yeah.
My business, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure if you saw Netflix the show, then you would see that like Creative, where we met, actually ended up catching on fire, and I lost everything. And so for the last like 3.5 years, I decided to just go 100% full-time, no businesses on the side, and just do my brand, which has been like the best decision I could have ever made.
What was your drive behind that? How did you, like, it burned down, and then how did you get back up, and how did you like pursue your dreams?
You know, I feel like when you lose everything, my business partner, who was also my partner, who you also knew, Ethan, Alex, had left the business, and he was the third partner. It was me and 3 other business partners, and he was the last one to leave. And when he left, he kind of just like was like, this isn't going to work. I don't believe this is ever going to work. Like, the business is never going to go anywhere. And he just up and walked out one day. And so then when the fire happened, like, I noticed that my business partners, because I was on the creative side, and so I noticed that my business partners had never paid for like the last 6 to 8 months of the insurance. So I literally lost everything. So I feel like when you lose everything, one, it was in my personal life and also my business life. And I literally, like 70% of the stuff that was in the store, that was also not, a lot of it was not mine, was done. I kind of was just like, what do I do next? You know, and somebody had said to me, there's this one location that has kind of shared spaces for designers that are just starting out. And I went to this space that I'm in now. I started literally with a locker here for $75 a month, because I didn't really have much to start with after that fire. And a client called me, and she said, oh, hey, I was looking for you. And I went by the old place, and I saw that it burned. Are you still in business? And I said, oh yeah, I'm at this new location now, but it's just me now. I don't have any of the other designers. And so she was like, well, you know, like, can you make me a dress? And I was like, yeah, sure. So then that kind of like started, and then I just, you know, found like the inspiration to kind of keep going. I mean, at that point, I was already so sick of doing so many other businesses in the industry and doing so many other things that were in fashion, but it was never just me, you know, and I felt like it was time for me to just focus on myself and my brand.
Okay.
You've worked with many celebrities, and, you know, your dresses have been showcased on many red carpets. What was, how did that happen? And what was the most memorable moments during that process?
You know, I think when you do fashion in different places, you have a different mindset. Like when you're a designer that's doing fashion in New York, you think that fashion is making it into the CFDA and being on the calendars and like doing it that way. In LA, when you're like raised, as I say, like in this industry here in LA, you think that it's all about dressing celebrities. And that's how people make it in LA, right? And so like when I first started in this industry, that's all I cared about. Like I was like, I gotta get on the Kardashians, you know, I gotta get on like these people, I gotta get on like you just like, and so I was just kind of in pursuit. And in order to get on a lot of these celebrities, they're really kind of looking for, it depends what type of celebrity you're pursuing, but like LA is like a bit like a show town, right? So they're looking for like performance pieces. So like you really get into the side of like the editorial side of the business. And so I ended up making like clothes that was kind of more geared at that. And so I ended up getting a lot of celebrities in the beginning, but a lot of celebrities don't pay. So, you know, then you got to figure out how you actually pay for bills. But through dressing all the celebrities, I think the most memorable celebrity and probably most memorable moment that I've had so far is when I got called to do Kat Von D's wedding dress about a week before her wedding.
A week before her wedding.
Yeah, and so she ended up coming. She ended up having there was a dress that she was having made that she was concerned wasn't going to fit her because she was pregnant, and so she had to like she was showing more than she thought she would, and so she had to redo the concept and find another dress to do kind of like really last minute. And so I ended up doing her veil and her wedding dress. And we ended up just clicking, and she ended up inviting me to the wedding and sitting me at the table with all these like rocker wives who were married to like, you know, people in like heavy metal bands, like iconic heavy metal bands, which was really cool. But the wedding itself was super rad. I mean, it was one of the rooms was inspired by like Dante's Inferno, and it was like all red, and then the first room was like all white with like fur instead of carpet on the floor and white floor. I mean, it was beautiful. She's amazing. And then she ended up being like one of the top 10 most Googled weddings of 2018. I think she was like number 8 as far as like, so the press was like insane.
When did you decide to make dresses or like female clothing instead of men clothing? Well, what was the process behind that? Like, where did you find your love for it?
I think it started when I was a teenager, and I was like literally flipping through like fashion shows, and I saw John Galliano for Christian Dior do these massive, insane, huge, unwearable couture dresses that looked like they were like from the 1800s. Somehow I became obsessed with like big ball gowns since I was like a kid, like a teenager. Like I was just obsessed with massive Victorian style, huge dresses. And so somebody said to me one time that I was born 200 years too late. Because they were like, nobody wears that anymore, right? And so I think the only way that I'm able to like satisfy that kind of desire to make that kind of clothes is by now doing bridal. Because I can still do these massive, huge dresses with all these details and all this over-the-top things, and somebody will actually wear it. Like if I do these types of dresses in like red or blue and close a show with it, they're like, oh, it was amazing, but then nobody wears it, you know? So it's like, I had to find a way to do it, and that was kind of the way, but not until maybe like, right before I got on the TV show, was I like, I don't have anything in my closet with my name on it. Like, why have I not ever made myself something? You know? So then I think that kind of sparked the men's side of fashion for me, maybe just a couple of years back.
It's like finding a need just for yourself to have your own identity, I guess. Like,
what was that?
I'm guessing it's like just, you know, having your own identity as a like you with your own clothes instead of, you know, be rocking up with all these other designer clothes and you're vegan design yourself. I'm guessing you just want to wear yourself. So yeah,
well, and sense. Also like what I found that it does is like, so I had this client's evening gown that I made, and I had a piece of fabric that I had hand-beaded for her evening gown, and I had like a small piece left, and I'm like, do I throw it away? It was like $300 a yard. What do I do with it? Do I use it as a trim? And I'm like, why don't I just put it on the sleeve of a blazer? You know? And so I had enough to do sleeves on one of my blazers that I had and decorate the sleeves with this like really elaborate beading. And what it did was it opened up the opportunity to have like a conversation piece. So like if I would go out, someone would be like, "Where'd you get your blazer? Wow, that's so funky. Who's it by?" And so I'd be like, "Oh, it's mine." And it was really interesting to be able to wear something that was like kind of my own idea or design, you know, because when you design for a client, you have to bring to life what they want. When you design for yourself, you're like, "Shit, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever the hell I want, whatever I want. What do I want to wear?" So it was different.
But let's since you mentioned it also, how did that Netflix show come about? Because I know you were a contestant at Next in Fashion, which is their first season ever, first episode ever.
Congratulations for that.
Like, how did they find you? How did you apply? Like, what was the process behind that? And the experience
you know
also.
What I tell everybody is social media is such a good gateway to so many things, because literally my business and I myself would not be where I am if it wasn't for social media. Like, factories have found me. Like, I used to like hand sew dresses with like 7 people, us all hand sewing one dress, and I would record it and put it on social media, and then a factory was like, "Hey, we could do that for you." And I was like, "Oh my God, really? Wow, how much?" You know, it's like, and so the same thing with celebrities, stylists found me, and the same thing with Next in Fashion. They literally just DM me and we're like, "Hey, we're doing a reality TV show. Do you want to apply?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Sure."
wow.
That's how it just came about, you know. Like, I wish there was like a much more elaborate story. Like, I bumped into someone at a coffee shop, but no.
No, I mean, that's amazing though. I mean, it's the power of social media, the power of, you know,
Sliding in
branding,
DMs.
branding, because, you know, they did not just stumble upon, you know, your Instagram. The Instagram obviously looks amazing, you know, and they obviously saw talent. They probably Googled you also, and saw like all the work you've done. So I mean, don't sell yourself too short, huh?
You know what it is in my business, in my world, Instagram has become like the resume.
True.
Yes.
For us, for creatives, for people that I know in my business. Because if somebody wants to figure out who you know, who follows you, who knows you, what kind of stuff you do, how popular you are, like if they want to look at all these factors, they literally just have to go to your Instagram page. So in my business, it's important to like try to like keep up with it, even though it's time consuming and it gets to a point where you need help and it's like, you know, whatever. It's still really important to maintain it, because I feel like I haven't gotten a business card. I haven't printed business cards, and I can't even tell you how long. Like, I use my Instagram or my website. Just go to,
I mean, shameless plug though. We are creating something. Well, we have something that could also elevate what you're saying, which is the Thriving app. So it's like that LinkedIn for creatives. Just saying, I would like you to try it.
We're gonna have to. I'll get on it.
Yeah, like basically the goal is to, you know, not only for your stylists and your manufacturers and stuff, but it's basically for your peers, for clients to find who they're looking for near them or globally. And then have that EPK, that profile being very LinkedIn-ish in terms of your bios, your accomplishments. Obviously, because of Instagram and the power of Instagram, you know, your Instagram profile will be integrated in your profile, so they don't even have to go on Instagram to see it. So it's I don't want to, you know,
it's basically a
spend much
filter mechanism for all the social platforms you're using only in one app, so you can see the data, everything around it.
But it's funny you mention it, because like it is very important, like social media in general.
Yes, definitely.
Social media in general is important.
Yeah.
I think social media in general has become such a huge way of communicating for everyone, and now we can communicate with the world, right? Like, now we see what's happening in other countries. Like, we were so self-contained.
Yeah, we were more in a bubble back in the day. You know, it's like you don't even know what's happening in the world. Like, I basically use Facebook anyway to know what's going on in the world. Like that's how I get my info. It's like if
Yeah.
that feed is a feed for life.
We're more global now, I think.
Yeah.
It's like we're like more working together as one unit more and more.
But getting back to fashion,
We're getting so deep.
they're listening
We're
to
getting
us.
deep. We're
They're
getting
listening to us. But how do you follow, not necessarily follow, but keep up with the different trends, like fashion trends?
How do I follow or keep up with what?
Like how do you follow or keep up with or create your own fashion trend or know what is in and what's not?
How do I keep up with fashion trends?
Yeah.
I don't know if I keep up with fashion trends by the sense of like I'm looking. So like I think it's changed also because of social media. Like before, I used to look at Vogue and Elle and see like what was trending for the season. Was it camouflage? Was it like it's all about neon? And I still kind of do, but I feel like because my world is more social media, especially in my little bubble here in LA, I kind of keep up more with. And not even keep up, but just see what other people are doing, and what and you could really kind of just see by like visiting people's platforms and seeing their pages and seeing like I don't really go to the big magazine platforms anymore to kind of keep up with fashion trends. I would just visit like a person, like I'll see what Lanvin or Jean Paul Gautier did for the season by just going on their pages on social media and just seeing like what their recent show was, and I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then I'll power through it on a page, and that's kind of really how I keep up with things. I'll also keep up with like seeing like what celebrities are wearing on the carpet when we used to have carpets. What's trending on the carpet, what's everyone saying is the hottest dress right now. Like that's kind of the way, like just browsing through at night with a cocktail in hand, searching through my little social media surf.
How much work goes into creating a fashion show?
A lot of work. I think especially when you're a younger designer like me and you don't have like, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million to have people do it all for you. The big fashion houses have huge amounts of help. If we're producing our own show, we have to get our sponsors, see, what our budget is for the show. Then we have to, hire everyone to put everything together, the seating. Like if we're not hiring a PR firm to work with us, then we got to figure out what celebrities we're going to get there, how we're going to get it there, who's going to go front row, the models, the modeling agencies you're working with, the model castings, the fittings, making the clothes. Like it's so much work. And then you do it all for about, I don't know, 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's true though.
For a 3-minute show, and then you're like, haven't slept for 2 weeks, and you're like, oh God, I'm never doing this again, and then you do it again. So,
Best 3 minutes of my life.
When was the last fashion week have you done? Because I remember you were in New York at some point, right?
I was what?
In New York, for New York Fashion Week at some point in time. The years have been flying, so I don't even know.
I showed in New York for the first time in like 2012, maybe. Was the first time I showed in New York for Fashion Week. Yeah, I miss the fashion shows. We don't. They are fun because it is, even though it is like a short amount of time. I found that before this whole COVID situation happened, I really enjoyed kind of doing more like presentations, like an installation where like someone comes into a room and there's like 15 to 20 models just presented in some sort of installment, and then you can actually have conversation with your clients, and you can actually hear from people which is their favorite and which they liked, versus like a runway show, everyone comes, they up, they go, and it's done. Like it's more there's more information, and there's more things that I enjoy, and I feel like people get to see the clothes up close instead of just running through them in front of them. They get to like see all the work that goes into the clothes, and the handwork and the beading and like all this work that sometimes doesn't really get to be appreciated when it just like, she like sprints in front of you and then runs right back.
Well, how was 2020 for you?
How was what for me?
2020 this year. last year. How was that on your mental state, on your career? What impact did it have?
COVID?
Yes.
COVID was amazing for me. And I feel horrible saying that because I know how many people we've lost worldwide. And I feel horrible saying that because I know what a different experience it must have been for other people. I mean, I recently got a little bit of a taste of that because about 70% of my immediate family got COVID, and only one out of all of them had to go to the emergency room. So I got a small taste of that. He ended up being fine. My sister's husband, he ended up being okay. My parents have been in lockdown, self-quarantine, where they're not seeing anybody. But, March, April was when we went into lockdown in LA. I think it's kind of started happening everywhere around that time of last year. And I was living with my roommate, and we were like college kids. We were like, well, we don't have anywhere to go, so you want to start drinking like happy hour around noon? Like, sure. So, it was kind of like a really long vacation that I had not taken a vacation, like a actual vacation in years, like 5-6 years. Anytime I went anywhere, it was work related, and then if I can add an extra day wherever I was just for like some sort of a vacation, I would. So this was like a really long amount of time for a break, and so it really gave me an opportunity to see how I was running things, how my business was working. Was I happy with the way things were? It gave me time to clean things up and restructure things that I never would have probably had done before, because you work 14 hours, then you go to a party, then you sleep 5 hours, then you wake up the next day, and then you work another 12 hours for another project, then there's another red carpet, then there's another dinner, then so it's like you're nonstop going. And I think it was a really good self-reflecting time. And I went back to work May 16th. My clients in places outside of California, in the South and Texas, where they maybe either weren't taking it as serious or weren't hit as bad yet as LA, started ordering. And December was probably one of the strongest Decembers I've had in a long time. I can't explain to you why this one was way busier, but I've been kind of blessed. I've been working, I've had projects. I'm working on a couple really big projects that are going to happen this year. So
anything you could drop? Any exclusives?
Good. What?
Anything you could drop? Exclusives?
Okay, so
we won't tell anyone.
There is some sort of a show, another one in the works. And that's all I can say about it.
Where is it? Who's coming? Where is it? How many people are going to be there?
I'm still locked in contracts with that, but
we
probably will film end of summer, and so it'll probably be out maybe like next year. So like maybe beginning of next, I'll be able to actually say some more stuff about it. And then I'm working on. I just got the call this morning, right before I jumped on with you guys. Actually, I'm doing a project, 2 really kind of big projects for me that maybe one in about a week I'll be able to announce, and one in about maybe like 3-4 weeks I'll be able to announce. But one of them is I'm creating something for one of the top female rappers in the game right now. So
wow, that's amazing. I was saying Tasha was the one that introduced us in the beginning.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's exactly my point. Is that like it's intro through people is the best way. And so New York is a lot more welcoming for networking. New York is like, New Yorkers, they love to introduce people to people. It's like their thing. It's like, oh my God, you do fashion? You need to meet my friend who's a stylist. I mean, and they really do legit introduce you. LA is more like, oh my God, let's do coffee tomorrow. And introduce you to the world. And then they like go out to a Hollywood Hills party and get trashed, and you never hear from them. So it's just a little different.
Yeah, that's one of the things I experienced. And that's the difference in Bali, which I really can't wait until you come to, one of the experiences here in Bali.
You're gonna love it.
The people that you meet here are just like 95% of them are actually just open, ready to collaborate, ready to connect you, ready to just help you, ready to just be there. And I mean that's what motivated me to move. Like after we organized the retreat for creatives, like I was supposed to be here for 3 weeks, and it was just meeting all these awesome people. And it still has the opportunities like being in LA, because most of them are here. The influencers are here, the content creators are here. So it's like you're in LA, but a better environment.
Yeah, it's a community based.
Yeah, it's more community based.
Yeah. I love that, and I love that people, in my town, they tell you, and in New York also, they tell you got to be a pit bull and a shark to be able to make it. And I've always found that the people that I've seen in the game here that are pit bulls and sharks make it really fast and then go up really high and then end up falling really hard. And I found that if you want a longer, more consistent, respectable career, it's really kind of like being kind is really not a bad thing, so I really try to approach my motto and my business with that kind of like approach to things, and just like, I'm open, and I try to be kind, and like I try to be cool, and I don't really surround myself with people with egos and this type of world. I come from a really grounded family. And then back to the project that I really couldn't talk about too much, that is the film project. The reason why I signed on to that film project is because their approach to the show is the opposite of any other show. There's no cattiness. They brought on only people that have this same mentality.
No, that's amazing.
Every creative on it is like a super warm, cool, kind-hearted, out to support each other. It's not a competition.
That's
so
awesome.
It's like this is kind of like the world that I like to live in, and I like to show people that you can do things like this and be this way and still have a successful career.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you emphasized on that, because that is something I think we all here in this room resonate with, which is why we're all here in this room after 1 or 2 in the morning. Like even Ichi, like he has, partnered with us, who owns, this amazing space and everything that we're doing. People like that are just willing to, collaborate and, build together.
Like-minded individuals are always, when they come together, they create a new world,
And it's energy, right? So same thing with my team and like my design team. If I don't feel like the energy is right from someone that's come on, I don't really want the person on the team. And so we're very careful about who we add into the team, because I'm around these people more than I am around my own family and friends. Like, for example, I got called for a Tyra Banks project, and they needed it 72. They called me 72 hours before they needed it. They didn't end up confirming the details until about maybe a day and a half before they needed it. So I ended up having to pump out a 23-hour straight, like nonstop. Like went to bed at 7 a.m. and had started the day before at like 8. And worked all the way through. Like literally, like when I got home, I was like, oh my God, it's 23. If I wait 1 more hour, I've been like one whole full 24-hour, like nonstop. And so it's like, that's the kind of thing that they require you to like pump. And I had to call in 6 to 8 people to come in to do handwork, to be there to prep. And we all worked through the night, through the hours to get this project done. And so I have to be careful that I'm surrounded by like the kind of energy and people I want to be surrounded by, because I'm around them like when I'm on no sleep, the worst of me, Make sure that like the vibes are good. And so I think it's really important to be surrounded by like people you really enjoy. It makes the work so much more pleasant.
In order to fly, one must trust its wings.
What was that?
In order to fly, one must trust his wings.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. Back in the day, and I know we go in sidetrack, but I'll come back soon. But it's related. When I was working in the hotel industry, I will actually like take out like the crew for drinks or whatever, and we became friends. So when we were on shift together, it was the best shifts. Like it went faster. The energy was just, you could feel it. You could feel that we loved each other. We knew each other. Like the customers felt it, the guests, so I definitely could resonate with that. And I think more people needs to, have that kind of work culture. Mm-hmm. It's small production to big, especially the small ones. Mm-hmm. Because, as you said, it's like a family. You spend more time with them, mm-hmm. more than your family and friends. So,
And this was like a hobby that I took on as a teenager when I was like, I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I was like out tossed on ecstasy when I was like 15 years old at a rave. That really has now turned into like some sort of remolded into like a careir. Yeah. So it's still kind of like really fun for me, and so
and it should be. It should be fun. Like
exactly. And I feel like once something you love to do is no longer fun, then something's wrong.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And so I just try to keep it fun and light, and everyone, like, we're cracking jokes, and I do probably foolish things that like people, would never even realize, and it's fun.
To get back to the fashion, where do you get your inspiration from?
I really, really love music, and I feel music makes. If you look at music and you look at a time and you look at whoever was singing that music, mm-hmm. you'll be able to also see what was being worn. So like if I wanted to see if I wanted to do like a 20s inspiration, mm-hmm. and I wanted to look at like 20s music and mm-hmm. see like who was really known for music in those days in that era, I would be able to find the music, listen to the music, look at what they were wearing, and then I think that kind of reflects also kind of what was going on in fashion at that moment. So, and then also with music, sometimes I can just visualize the runway and the look, just depending on the song. Sometimes I'll listen to a song that I'm inspired by like 50, 60 times, and so I've learned to do headphones because it drives anyone that I'm around crazy. But music is a huge inspiration for me, but everything, like I feel like people don't look at design of things because we become so used to it. Like you go and grab your utensils, mm-hmm. and if there's like silverware that you just bought, there was somebody that designed that. Mm-hmm. You go and grab a plate, like you just grab a plate and you get your food. Somebody designed that plate. Like there's design all around us, but people only pay attention to the type of design that their mind is the most attracted to. Mm-hmm. So like if you like watches, you'll pay attention to watches, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you love cars, you'll pay attention to cars. But there's things that are designed that are all around us all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I try to look at everything. Mm-hmm. I'm always like, I'm watching everything. I look at everything that people are wearing, the cars, like the details, the inside, the houses, furniture. Like I always look I love design. I love any type of design. So I pull inspiration from everywhere.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. And I guess like if you're a fashion designer or just any kind of designer, that's immediately your focus, right? Or even just an artist, like you look around you, everything you find around you, you draw inspiration from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a salesperson first because of like my upbringing in high-end retail, but then I also feel like I'm probably just more of a creative artist person than I am a designer because I never went to school to be formally trained as a designer. I kind of learned on my own and learned through like seamstresses and pattern makers and people in the business. So like on Next in Fashion, it was funny because I was like maybe one of, there's maybe like two of us that were self-taught, I think. Everyone had gone to some like grand fashion school. Like, oh, I graduated from Parsons, or I went to Central St. Martin's School of, they were all very like, this is my degree. So it was really interesting for me to be around them because I just wanted to see their method and their process because I have no designer friends, really. I really don't hang out with fashion industry people because I just feel like I'm around this business all day. So I want to be like around something else in my personal time. And so it was really interesting for me to see like how they did their process because I think mine is probably so different because I wasn't put somewhere where they're like, this is how you sketch. No, that's wrong. Do it this way. And then, so it's like, I think I'm just more of a creative before.
On that note, though, what is your process?
Huh?
What is your process? Like from idea in your head to
What is my process?
to the catwalk?
So I don't like to sketch so much. I have to, obviously, for clients. But I am, again, my process is probably different because I'm self-taught. I see a fabric and I see what I want to do with the fabric, and I play with the fabric.
Okay.
And the way that the way I learned to be in this business is I would go and buy commercial patterns that were already made, like at Joann's or like, you know, these like stores where grandmothers go to buy things to knit their grandchildren. And I would go and buy a pattern, and it would be like a basic skirt, and I'd be like, well, what if I cut it this way? Or what if I get rid of this part? And then what does it look like then? And so that was kind of like my process that I taught myself to do. So now, 10 years later, 12 years later, I still just kind of manipulate patterns and play with things. And, you know, it's like a big playground for me. If I have all these fabrics and all these patterns now, then I'll go and manipulate and change. And so now I have a team of people, but it's never like idea, sketch, cut fabric. So like for me, it's usually like take that skirt, and what if I get rid of part of that skirt, could it be a really cool shoulder?
God bless.
You know, could it be a sleeve? Or could, you know, and I manipulate and play things all the time. So that's really more my process.
You mentioned something. Sorry, I know you can. Which comes to a question that I wanted to ask. What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are?
What do I think my what?
Your strengths and
weaknesses are?
Weaknesses, yeah.
My strength, as far as fashion goes, or as far as my personality?
Fashion.
I think my strength in fashion is like, I love drama.
Okay.
So if you're calling me, you're not calling me for a minimalistic, simple little cocktail dress. And if you are, I mean, I'll still do it for you, but you really should. But, you know, I really am known for like elaborate hand detail, and like I like beading, and I like things that are intricate, and I like detailed, and I like things that take a long time, because that means to me that they've been worked, you know. And I want if something to be made by hand versus machine, like I prefer that, you know. And so I think I am more known for that type of work, huge volume, things of more of that side. The weakness, I guess, in fashion then comes that like not every person wears this, or has the means or the lifestyle to acquire this type of clothing. And so then, you know, people will go on my Instagram and will say like, you know, or any social media platform, and be like, this is beautiful, but what about, you know, the rest of us? And so I think even when I try to do ready to wear, I'm like, this is my ready to wear, and it's still like some avant-garde cocktail dress for someone, you know, in New York that I think is going to like some gala or something. So I think my world is definitely in more of the luxury kind of evening wear side, and so my weakness is probably that I'm not someone who's just gonna do something basic and simple for the mass markets, which for business can be, you know, not as lucrative. But I don't care. I'm not in this just to have this. I don't want to be Michael Kors, you know. I don't want to have this massive licensing global brand that one day will then end up in some trash bin because 500 million people will have it and don't want it anymore because it's out of fashion. I'd rather be more like a boutique brand, you know. I'd rather be more like a McQueen or like a Westwood who has like 8 boutiques worldwide. Like that's more of like the approach that I want.
How difficult is it now in comparison with before, maybe 20 years?
I think something happened to the volume on my note when they called me right now. Let me see.
1 second.
Okay, try.
Yeah, much better.
Is it better?
There we go. We're back.
How difficult, or like, what's the difference between people starting or a brand right now, or people that started a brand before? Like, is it easier to do it now or not, or is it like more hard to start a fashion line or a brand?
I think it's so much easier to start a brand now, only because I started my brand. I'm part of that generation that like really started on MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was like the kid who was like learning how to do the coding to make his page cool and whatever. Before, but there wasn't really so much information out there. Like you couldn't just go and YouTube like how to drape a couture gown. You know, there wasn't as much information online yet, I think, as there is now. Now you can literally YouTube anything. You can go on Pinterest and find patterns. You can literally go on social media and there's people doing their little how-to on Reels, you know. I think it's easier that way now. You just have to be resourceful. Because if someone says right now, like, I don't know how to start my fashion brand right now, I'm like, you really don't know how to Google.
Yeah. So basically, like, obviously, if someone wants to start a brand tomorrow, what are the main things you think they need to really try to kind of focus on, or like make sure they have right before going live?
Make sure they have a right?
No, like what do you think are the like main things that they need to have before they go live, if they just want to start a brand like from tomorrow?
Oh, what do they need to have before they want to go and approach starting their brand?
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a clear direction of what you want to do. That took me a long time to figure out. And I think I've kind of had a clear idea when I started, but then when I first started, I went into ready-to-wear, and then I would always finish with like one grand finale, big gown, you know? And I think that gown was like really all I wanted to do, but I thought like, I'll never make any money because I need to make clothes that everyday people wear, so I should make ready-to-wear. So I would do like casual, fun, cute stuff and cocktail dresses, and then I would just finish with one beautiful gown or whatever. And so it's finally taken me time to accept that that's really who I am. Like I really do evening wear and I really love bridal. And you know, a lot of the designers on Next in Fashion and Netflix were like, oh, bridal's not fashion. Anyone who's doing bridal shouldn't be here. You know, they make snarky little comments like that. And I really don't care. Like if you can call it fashion, you can not call it fashion. You can call me a dressmaker. I don't care. I love making beautiful dresses, and it took me a long time to really figure that out and be comfortable with that. And I think you just have to really pursue what you love, and you really have to have a clear idea of what it is you love, because if you stray and take too much time to figure that out, it's like you're losing time, right? And like now that I'm getting a little closer to my 40s, I feel like that's the one thing none of us can control, you know, like no matter how much money and power you have, like time is of the essence. And so I just think having a clearer vision on what you want to do is the best.
That was well said.
Yeah, that's immediately an advice for up and coming designers, right?
Yeah. Like me myself, because and you wanted to start something. So yeah, we all want to. You know, you always want to start something, and it's just there in your head, but then you just don't even know where to start. Or, I mean, you know where to start, as you said. You know, obviously, you know, the YouTubes and stuff. But I think also it's like that passion, that need to want to do it, and like how far down you want to actually continue doing it, not just for the show, but you want to make a livelihood out of it. So it's like, I think,
how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to let the process, you know, you're like, let Jesus take the wheel, baby. Like, you just got to like figure it's going to come to you, you know? Like, I think people go, what would you change? I don't think I was supposed to change anything. I think that was my path. I think I was supposed to go through all these different businesses, and I learned something at every single point in every single career choice that I made, whether it was the brand development, the endorsement and licensing side, you know, whether it was like manufacturing everything from dog leashes to men's clothing for all these other designers that I represented. Like I've learned so much, and the knowledge that I gained from all that stuff is going to help me now, you know, even like something as really honestly as stupid as like not knowing that your business partners have not taken care of the insurance. Like how was I so disconnected from the business side to not know that something as simple as like $100, $80, $150 bill a month wasn't being taken care of? Like, I think, you know, we go through everything and then you gain the knowledge, you learn things, and that just helps you for whenever it's time for you to like move into the next actual step in your career.
Well said.
Yeah,
bro.
it's all about learning, you know. Like I've been talking to a creative as well yesterday, and we were also talking about the fact that our whole life we are trying to learn, and we keep on learning, and we try to be better at it. But eventually, like we will all die learning, you know. We'll never know anything, but we still be able to have that fire inside of you to be able to learn.
Yeah, you're always learning. I think if anyone says that they know it all, they need help. Like everyone is still learning. You learn every day. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you know, I love Lagerfeld. Lagerfeld used to always say, I thought he was the best. I thought Lagerfeld was the best because, you know, I hear so many people say like, oh, I'm so old now. I don't do that anymore. I don't go out anymore. I'm like too old for that. I can't wear that. I'm too old, you know? And they showed Lagerfeld before he passed, and he was on his phone and he was playing with Snapchat when it came out, you know? And they were like, why do you like use these apps? Why do you feel like you have to play with them? And he said, because in order for me to stay current, I have to understand what's going on, and it keeps me young, and I love it, and I just want to play with it. So he was like doing like Snapchat selfies and playing with it. And I thought that was so cool because, you know, you know, we now know social media platforms are kind of generational, you know, like my aunts and my mom use Facebook, and, you know, like certain people use this, and like it becomes like a certain, like, you know, and it also depends on country to country because you know, I think like here, like I know that like certain platforms are different in other countries, but here I know like a lot of like my older relatives use Facebook and I don't really use it anymore. And so I feel like it's okay to like stay in touch with what's happening. Like, you know, you guys are doing a new platform, a new social media platform. Like, it's like I would want to learn more about it, I don't ever want to stop learning. Like once I feel like I stop learning, then I feel like maybe I'm done. You know, like.
So what is next? Also, you mentioned obviously the various productions and stuff that you cannot talk about. But in terms of like your brand and, you know, Adolfo, what do you think is that next step for you? And like, what is it that you want? Is it just the 5 boutiques around the world? What countries actually do you want those boutiques in? Maybe we put it out in the universe right now.
Well, so what I guess I'll answer the first part first. Like, what's next? And for me, I think that I have made a comfortable business at doing made to measure, made to order. A woman comes to me and says, I want this gown made, or I want this wedding dress made, and I make it for them according to their measurements. What I'm working on right now on trying to develop, which is kind of like a whole different monster, is going into wholesale for bridal and evening wear. And so I'm working right now on my first bridal collection that'll be available for stores to start carrying. And so we just got picked up our first bridal store that's carrying us. And
congratulations.
I'll start offering it now to other stores instead of just being only here. Like, you have to come and see me or contact me to do that. So I want to scale the brand now. Like, and now I've gotten a taste for the business, and I want to scale it into, like, you know, within the US. Who I would love to be in business more with, and I was in business more with before, was in France. We used to sell on an online store years ago called Cabinet de Mode, and then we used to sell on Le Petit, I forget, it was like a little black dress, and so those were online stores that we were selling on, and I was sending quite a bit to like France and Paris for clients, and that was doing great. And then it got to a point where we couldn't handle the volume, and we ended up burning and crashing.
Oh, shit.
But now I want to go back into, you know, I love France. I love French fashion. I love couture. I love everything about that country's aesthetic for fashion. And so I just kind of want to, but first and foremost, we're focusing on expanding the brand in the US. And we're starting with a PR firm in New York called the Copper Showroom, flying solo. We start with them next week. And then we're starting with a PR showroom out of Montreal in Canada. And then we're gonna reopen back up to dressing a lot more celebrities like we used to before here in LA, probably like by March. So we're pushing on the PR side.
Let me know.
That's exciting news.
My PR partner, I think, will be a perfect person for you. I'm just shameless plug, Jane Owen. Have you met her?
Who?
Jane Owen.
Say it again.
Jane Owen.
Katie Owens?
No, Jane Owen.
I met her?
No, I'm asking. It doesn't matter. But I'll it's all good. We're gonna crop this part out. No, but when you're ready for like some PR in London, in LA, sorry.
Oh, your publicist. There's a publicist.
Yeah, my publicist partner. So she has an office in London and LA, but she also has a showroom in somewhere in Europe for celebrities and stuff.
She has a
too.
showroom in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're starting.
And Beverly Hills also.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk to her if she's in LA also. I mean,
Yeah.
you never know, you know what I mean? I'm always open to like talking to people.
Yeah, and
we kind of handle like, so LA is a little easier because my backyard is Hollywood.
Which
and
is
so
true.
there's
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that just call us already like
Which is true,
organically for celebrities. But with that said, there's probably a lot of people that we're not tapped into in Hollywood that we probably could be tapped into that would probably be better, you know, so I'm always open to talking to people for sure.
Yeah, she has like about, you know, like 300 celebrity clients and so on and so on, and of course the publications, as you know, it's always a, you know, a big plus.
So the one in Montreal, they really focus on like, they get, for some reason they get a lot of, well, I mean, they get a lot of European requests. And so they just approached us out of nowhere. We weren't even looking for them. They contacted me on social media. And then the one in New York we came across, and it just really kind of seemed to be a good fit. And then LA, we're kind of handling it ourselves, but you know, I'm always open to some help.
We always end the episode with by asking, or like, if you could address the world in 10 seconds, what would you say?
If I could travel the world?
No, if you could address the world in 10 seconds, your life in front of the whole nation, in front of the whole world, on television, what would you say?
Be nice to each other.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, definitely.
I think
Stop
already
fighting so much. It's the same thing I would say to my children, because I feel like the world and adults act like children.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, just get along, knock it out. You know, like the New York way, we give them a backslap and be like, be nice to each other.
No, but I mean, you're not the first person that said it. Like, I think the thread that pretty much went through, because you're our 9th interview, basically the majority was basically that. You know, is either be nice, be kind, or and
spread love.
Yeah,
it's so true. It's it goes a long way.
I mean, I'm in the U.S. and you've seen what our government has gone through.
2020 was a big year for you.
In the very few recent years, and not that I want to give that man any more attention that he doesn't need, but it's like a good riddance and fresh start. And even if like I feel like maybe the country's not 100% satisfied with who's there, we're just satisfied with who's not. And so I think it's just everyone's at a place. You know, even like when I saw Cardi B's new music video and she's like, that starts off with like, rest in peace 2020. You know, I think everyone's just so tired of the energy that came from Corona and then the chaos worldwide and, you know, like the government, the politicians. And there's been so many people fighting. I mean, I'm probably not talking to half of my family because of the politics, you know, like, and so it's just, I think people, I'm just like, let's just get over it and be nice to each other, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you again for watching another episode of Discover Thriver. I'm your host, Ethan.
And I'm your co-host, Arthur.
And thank you again, Adolfo, for
thanks for having me, guys. It was
spending your Sunday morning with us. You know,
Thank
I think
you.
next time we need to just have people come with their coffee.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was a nice little Sunday event. So thank you for letting me do that.
All right. Well, see y'all for the next episode.
Thank you very much.
Bye. And then